I'm Lamont.
And I'm Leah.
And I'm Lamont.
Wait, what?
I'm Lamont, and I've heard that my toxic trait is being bossy. What?
And I'm Leah, and my toxic trait is never asking for help.
And you're tuning into the Lamont N Leah podcast. So today, Leah, we were like, let's open it up to like people we may not know. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to have special guests. But today I got a special guest, and his name is Lamont. And you probably saw him in the first intro. But yeah, his name is Eric Lamont Green, and he uses both sides to show like his seriousness. So like Eric is the more seriousness, while Lamont obviously is the more fun and playful side of him. But we are so happy to have him on today's podcast. He has his own foundation where he helps younger people. He is all about mental health, and he's trying to do like a big push into learning about mental health and educating yourself. So I'm really excited to have him on.
Okay. And we are talking about being toxic.
Yes, and so today we're talking about being toxic, learning how to like recognize it in ourselves, not just in other people, but like in ourselves.
In ourselves, yeah. I think that is the main point we want to drive home today. It's less, we want to talk less about like seeing toxic traits in others, but how you can be self-aware and see it in yourself. All right, let's actually get into the topic with our guest.
All right, let's go get him. Thank you so much for coming on the Lamont and Leah podcast. We are Leah, stop.
It's just so funny.
I know it is, but I'm trying to talk here.
Okay, sorry.
We are so excited to have you on today to help us talk about being toxic and how we're all guilty of it sometimes. Before we, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, nothing. I was just agreeing. Yeah, we are.
So before we get started today, would you please take a moment to introduce yourself to our listener and viewer audience?
Well, hey, everybody. Yo, I goes by Lamont, but my real name is Eric G. A lot of people know me for my podcast, Random Thoughts with Eric G, which have new episodes every Thursday on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, everything. You know, if you have a podcast service, I'm on it. Anyway. But pretty much, man, I'm a down-to-earth guy. I'm really goofy. My podcast consists of whatever randomly popped in my head this week. And it's going to be anything. This week is actually a very important episode I'm doing dedicated to mental health. Last week's episode, I kind of gave a little background of my own personal journey. And this upcoming week, I have an episode where I interview other podcasters who have expertise in mental health. So so that's pretty much me. I'm just a normal big-headed guy. So I mean, I'm goofy. So and I love to talk. So if I do overtalk y'all, please tell me to shut up.
All right, sounds good.
Oh yeah, and definitely check out all those links. They'll be in our show description. Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So we're talking about being toxic and how we can all be toxic sometimes. No one is exempt from that. So what does toxic even mean? Or how would we even define toxic?
It's one of those words, and I've said this in so many episodes, I sound like an idiot. It's one of those words that you like don't know the definition to, but like you know the definition to. Like you can't put it into words. Like I'm gonna have to think hard to put the definition to words, like, but I know what it is. So if someone's talking about like, oh, that person's so toxic. I know exactly what they're talking about. Not really sure. Google, what is toxic? What about you, Mr. Eric?
Toxic. The best way I can explain is my early 20s. No, I'm trying to think. Toxic. I don't know. I think toxic can be a good and bad thing. I don't know.
Really?
I think it's a good and bad thing because I think we all had to go through some level of being toxic to become a good mate for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like hopefully, you know, as we talk into this right here, and I don't want to share so much of my personal life, but as we go on, I do feel like, we have to go through something to go somewhere, to get somewhere. So I do think that being toxic is a part of that. But as for the definition of it, all I can say is it's like spoiled milk.
Ooh, I like that.
Spoil your milk. It doesn't look bad until you taste it.
I like that.
That's a great analogy. I love
great.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, a toxic person is anyone whose behaviors add negatively to my life or try to upset me or like just disrupt my character in not a supportive way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I typed it in on Google.
What'd you get?
A very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way. Let me say that again. Very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way. There you go. Insidious. So
that's a word I can't pronounce. All right.
Insidious. Yeah, you know what? Let's just stick with the milk analogy. That was great.
Yeah, I really that was a really great way to describe a toxic person.
All right, we're done. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Oh man.
So Leah, you were talking about understanding it, like if you walked by and you heard someone saying, "Oh, that person's toxic to you, girl, you don't leave him." Like you were talking about it, right? So what are some signs that a person or people might be toxic in your life?
Let's see. Definitely how they make you feel. Like if they don't make you feel good, there's something wrong there.
Yeah, so Leah and I are always talking about self-awareness and being looking within and examining the feelings, and if those feelings are coming up for you and they're making you feel not so good, you need to examine that, be like, what is that and why is it happening? And maybe this person may not be the best for me.
I think with me though, I was always able to point out when somebody else is in a toxic relationship. Then when I noticed when I was in one, because I have 3 sisters, so and a brother, so I'm used to seeing the level of toxic here, so it was easy for me to point it out. But I do think that when you're in that type of situation, and I tell you about it, love is like a funny thing that's tricky that you can't never really weed yourself through. So when you're in that situation, you're so blinded by this love and lust that you're in that you don't see that this person right here is really affecting me to a point that I'm toxic to everybody else. And like I said, with me, I don't know. I'm trying to think about me personally. Me, and I said at the beginning that my early 20s, and for me I didn't think I was toxic. I thought I was toxic adjacent, not quite toxic. I was more honest than anything. That was my thing. I was too honest when it came to. I was too honest. My thing was I wanted this way, and the third. No strings attached. We just gonna be friends. Yeah, but I'm gonna show you off like you're my girlfriend. and it kind of backfired on me really really bad. And like I said, but I do think being toxic, like I do think a person can learn from their experiences being a toxic person.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe in that. I believe there's always hope to, like, if you're engaging in behaviors that you don't like or don't deem that are good for you and you're struggling, like, to change, I always believe there is possibility of change. And maybe you don't even recognize it right now or at the time, but different life experiences will hopefully teach you different things. So I definitely believe in that.
Yeah. And that's hoping people learn from it. Because I think one of the big issues is when people and that's how you know that they are a toxic person in your life, is like they don't learn from the previous experiences. Like you were saying, there are things that we do that we learned a lesson from, and we're like, okay, well, that's not how we act. And I think, like you're saying, I think that's okay. But we also need to, like, accept the fact that just because we don't do that anymore and we're sorry doesn't mean that the person needs to forgive you necessarily or forget. I think that can also be toxic in itself, when you're like, well, I said I'm sorry, I don't do that anymore. Like, yeah, but that doesn't mean the person is, like, over it or you didn't actually hurt them.
Right.
Because I see that a lot too. Like, well, I said I'm sorry and they don't want to be my friend anymore. Now I'm even more upset. I'm like, that's not how it works.
I like the point that Lamont brought up about love, right? Because it may not just be romantic love. Maybe it's like this friendship love or this loyalty that we have for our friends that kind of blind us to what might be happening in the here and now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, we all experience some form of it though, and trying to move from it is the hardest part sometimes. I mean, being self-aware is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
Being self-aware of is the hardest part of it. And like you said, Leah, it was that try. Like, I think a lot of people don't want to deal with the consequence for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
And they're afraid of what's going to happen to them because they were so bad in the prior life or whatever. But I think that we all got to deal with it and move on from it, and hopefully we can learn and and grow from it. That's my hope.
Exactly. Yes. So being self-aware. Maybe we should have made a sticker about being self-aware. All right. Next sticker drop. Self-awareness. I think that's been our theme lately, actually, in our podcast, has trying to develop a self-awareness and being aware of how you're feeling and how you're making other people feel as well.
Yeah, that has definitely been a big theme of ours. And even now, that's the next question. How would a person recognize their role in being toxic?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it comes with age. As you get older, and I mean, for me, I wasn't as bad as anybody else can be, but I got family members, for instance. I know I have one family member. He went through years of him being like the problem in his relationships, but I think he got to a certain age where he realized, okay, what I want now is like a very stable unit, and he had to realize, okay, I hurt a lot of people in my past. And maybe the reason why I can't get this stable unit I'm searching for is because of the wrong I did prior. So I think, like you say, age comes with wisdom. So I do think that as you get older, you self-reflect on everything you've been through in your life. I mean, we all have a moment that as we got older, like, dang, I wish I would have took this path in life, or I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. So I do think as we get older, we do take more like self. I've been to say the word so wrong. I'm gonna say self-control. We do take more of self-blame for it, and I think we once we take that self-blame and what we did, we got to learn how to deal with the consequences from it and how to move on from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. There is a part and getting older and having more experiences and learning from those experiences that help reframe our world, our thoughts, and our beliefs. And so that is definitely one way we can recognize how we've been toxic and how we can prevent being toxic.
So just kind of, how do I relate this? So on one hand, I feel like when you're the toxic person in any type of relationship, yes, you need to like realize that you were the bad guy in this story and you're apologetic or you make amends or whatever. And they don't have to forgive you. That's not their responsibility. But on the other hand, on the other side of it, I think like looking at a person and making that decision to forgive them or not is something like entirely different. Where was I going with that? Uh-oh. I got lost in the sauce. Didn't someone say that a few weeks ago?
Maybe.
I've been saying it ever since, man.
Oh, you stole someone's saying.
I did.
Man. You're just a saying killer, man.
Like cancel culture. That's really been bothering me.
A little bit too here.
I think like people are not as forgiving for when people want to change or actually make a change. There it is. That was my point I was trying to drive home is allowing people to change and develop and become self-aware and make changes on those toxic traits that they may have had in the past. Like what was one of mine? Like in college, I would avoid situations. Like, if I was uncomfortable, I'd avoid it, like, completely. I would just, like, fall off the radar until things calmed down. Not very good for developing relationships. So there are people from, like, my college era where, you know, they kind of don't want to deal with me anymore because it's just like, oh, you know what? She just kind of disappears off the radar when things get difficult. She doesn't want to, like, be confronted or talk about stuff. But, like, I'm not like that anymore. Like, when I'm feeling uncomfortable, yeah, it may take me a second to, like, get up the courage to have the discussion, but I'm more than willing to have the discussion nowadays. And so one part of me wishes that those people would like give me a chance to apologize, but on the other hand, they don't have to, and I understand it. It's just kind of crappy on the other end of it.
Right.
But yeah, I think we should be open to allowing people to change.
Agreed. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was saying that I agree with exactly what you were saying. I was kind of like that too, especially up until a couple years ago. I always been the type of person that's kind of like shy away from a lot of situations. Especially when I was younger, try to shy away from it. It's not that we not sociable. Like we want to be there. We want to be a part of stuff. With me, I would always want to do something, but I had a certain goal in my mind, and my friends at that time was not a part of that goal. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like backed away from it. And I kind of wish now, like you said, that maybe I did entertain a little certain things back then and enjoy myself a bit more. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. Yeah.
So Leah, you had mentioned cancel culture, and as soon as like I think of cancel culture, I think of like Pepe Le Pew and the cat that he molested, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool? Like as you're talking and telling your story, I was like in my head, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if Looney Tunes did a version where like Pepe Le Pew apologizes to the cat for being so like obsessive and manhandling it, and be like, yes, I might be French, and yes, this was what I believed was right. I now learned that it's not okay, and even though I want to be with you, I apologize for all the actions I did, and I'm changing, and if you stick around, maybe we can like be friends or something. But like I don't know, that's kind of what was going through my mind. Like allowing Pepe Le Pew to change his way.
You're gonna piss some
So he
people
doesn't have to
off,
be canceled
bro.
anymore.
You're gonna make some people upset.
I probably had to turn the TV on that one, huh?
I mean, I would watch it, but I know a few older folks that grew up watching Pepe Le Pew that'd be like, why would you do that to this cartoon? It's just funny. I'm like,
Well, no, technically he was a straight up molester. Like straight up.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. Oh wow, he was a molester.
That was his toxic trait.
Yeah, like manhandling that poor cat.
And she was fighting for her life too, man.
Oh no.
Like,
Oh man.
but anyways, let's bring it back to something a little bit more serious. So, one of the questions I had asked was, how would a person recognize their role in being toxic? And I found, because we haven't done this in a long time, I found a video that I want to show you guys. Like, don't give me, Leah, take that look off your face.
It's okay. I'll allow it because I totally have a video for next week.
Oh.
Because I was working on the outline and I definitely have a video for next week. So I will allow it this time. 1 for 1.
As the main characters writing our own stories, we often feel like we're heroes combating everyday life events. But one wrong turn or move and you can end up as the villain. Sometimes we can repeat hurtful behavior without meaning to. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, just human, but self-awareness helps you get better. Feeling like the mean spider bit you? Here are 7 surprising signs you're becoming toxic. 1. You can't seem to maintain relationships. Ever wonder why your relationships always end up in the dumps? It might have to do with toxic partners, or it might have to do with you. Toxic relationships aren't always necessarily manipulative, controlling, and abusive. Sometimes they stem from overanalysis. Studies show that individuals with low self-esteem are more likely to expect rejection from their partner and avoid telling their partner how they truly feel. In this case, self-fulfilling prophecies win. The more afraid you are that the relationship will fail, the more likely it will. 2. You can't fully trust your friends, and you drain them out. Do you feel like you have more enemies than friends? Or worse, are your friends just enemies in disguise? Behavioral scientist Clarissa Silva says we are supposed to be a better version of ourselves in our relationships and support each other's goals. But when you're too busy making everything a competition, no one wants to keep up with that attitude. Instead, Silva states you'll begin to drain people out rather than energizing them. On top of that, with your obsession on surpassing them, you'll forget to provide the emotional support that your friends need. 3. You apologize once in a blue moon. Psychologist Abigail Brenner says that toxic people often claim the victim card, meaning that they seldom ever take accountability for their own actions. When you have a hard time swallowing your pride and apologizing, this can truly sabotage your relationships. In fact, researchers discovered that there are many benefits to the art of apologizing, such as stress relief and rekindling friendships. When you don't say you're sorry, you miss out on understanding how you might have hurt someone. It isn't too late now to say sorry. 4. Drama follows you everywhere. Do you have a habit of breaking promises or leaving others hanging? Consistency is important, but when it isn't, serious consequences follow. According to psychologist Perpetua Neo, bringing drama to the table, such as spreading rumors and starting fights, is a big red flag you're becoming toxic. Is telling a grandiose story really more important than your friend's feelings? No. 5. You're addicted to social media. This is different from tuning into the Psych2Go channel to watch our new uploads. Who doesn't appreciate many likes on Facebook and Instagram? But when your self-image becomes a bigger priority than staying present, that can lead to bigger problems. Dr. Sadie Letter-Elder says that letting technology get the best of you can make you accidentally be the toxic one in your relationship. When you rely on an audience for validation, you also rely on social media for ego boosts. This may cause others to resent you for having your eyes glued to your phone rather than on them. 6. You talk about people behind their backs. High school drama sucks, and if you constantly talk about people behind their backs, it'll feel like you never left, even when you graduated. You might think you're avoiding conflict when you complain on the down low, but passive-aggressive behavior becomes a gateway to becoming toxic. When you can't openly share your opinions with others in a healthy fashion, it only hurts them in the long run. Even if you never meant to cause harm in the first place, people always have a way of finding out the truth. 7. You shut others out when their opinions differ from yours. Dr. Brenner says that being judgmental is a common characteristic toxic people possess. When you dominate the conversation and shut others out for having different thoughts, you end up marginalizing them. Not acknowledging another side of the argument doesn't make you right. It just makes you close-minded.
So, what'd you guys think of the video?
Well, it made me feel good that I didn't see myself in any of those. So,
So I do want to talk about the cell phone thing because we've talked about this before. I think in earlier episodes, and I believed everything the video had to say about the cell phone. But then I also am thinking, well, what about those times where you're not using it for more validation? Like, what if you're just bored and don't really want to be a part of the conversation, or whatever? Because I have a lot of thoughts. Sorry. Okay. So my mom, my adopted mom, she told me to her it's never okay for you to be on the cell phone while you're in the presence of other people talking. Like if you're having conversation, either do what you need to do really quick and finish up and be present, but don't try to be talking on your while you're on your cell phone. That's not good. I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. I feel like it can be done artfully, but not everyone's artful at it. But then some people get mad and they're like, why are you on your cell phone? We're talking. And then my response to that is, have I not fully been engaged? Have I not been able to comment and stay in tune and hear your emotions and validate you while doing what I'm doing on the side? So, it gets a little, for me, the cell phone area is a little tricky. And so maybe that's how I'm toxic. Is maybe I'm not willing to not always be on my cell phone.
I think they were just being really particular about a certain situation, because I do have a friend like that. Actually, I have two friends like that. They're always on their phone the whole time. Sometimes they're engaged with the conversation. Sometimes they're just, they're like, wait, what did you say? It's really annoying, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess you're not listening to me, so cool beans.
And that's not okay. That's cool.
And I think that's what they were referring to, was the really not giving the people you're interacting with your attention. But they kind of combined two different things in one, I think, just to kind of make it make sense. Because I think someone who's on their phone all the time and not engaging versus someone who's looking for validation online, that's they could be related, but I think they're two different things.
They are two different things.
Because not all social media is just validation seeking too. So I think for the video, to make it concise, they kind of combine those two, but I think they're two different things.
Well, Lamont, what you were saying, Lamont, I was thinking that when you were you could still be able to engage and still be on your phone. I do think it's also the time we live in now. I mean, we are able to multitask doing anything now. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's illegal. I drive with just text. But look, anyway, but like I said, we engaged. I think because a lot of people from the older generation, they didn't have phones like that. There wasn't, social media wasn't around. Mm-hmm. So you had to be there present to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? I mean, I grew I'm 32. I ain't afraid to admit how old I am. But I grew up at a time when I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones. And you know how hard it is? All that we had was we had a Game Boy. You can't do too much on the Game Boy because the light
I wasn't even allowed to have a Game Boy.
And you probably had Game Boy Color because it was after the 90s.
Hey, you know what? No, I was cheap. I had the black and white Game Boy. We had to play Donkey Kong black and white. Oh no, but I'm saying though, we didn't have like it's so easy to be distracted now. But I mean, I think it's a give and take on both sides because I have two stepsons, and I be speaking to them. They be on the phone the whole time, like, "Yeah, I heard you, yeah, I got you." But if I ask them what I said, they will repeat everything I told them.
Yeah,
that's I think the time we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think there needs to be like, so obviously I'm not gonna be on my phone with my mom having a conversation because she finds it rude, and like I'm not there to like upset my mom or offend my mom. But with other friends or people, if they're getting upset, like my friends, and they're challenging me, it's like, guys, like, come on. Like, but also, why am I on my phone? That's a good, that might be a good question too. Like when everyone's having a conversation or whatever. Mm-hmm. For the most part, like, I feel like when we're in person, like, I'm not on my phone. Like, I feel like we're always like communicating or whatever, so.
Yeah. I mean, you're not as bad as some other people I know.
All right, so just become a little bit self-aware, and you like everything in life, you have to balance it against your values and your beliefs, right? Like, what is good, what is not good? Am I hurting people? Am I not hurting people? If I am hurting people, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to consider changing? And like, honestly, if someone's like, you know what, it really hurts me when you're on your phone, I'd rather not be on my phone. Just like, fine, like, let's put it away.
That's good. I just get rid of the friend, but I understand. Oh man, I got an update.
Besides the social media thing, were there any other thoughts on the video?
I understand to a certain extent. I mean, they're pretty much being self-absorbed. Pretty much. I mean, I think I be in my own mind sometimes, and you have your own life you work out. So to me, I personally don't think I'm trying to be shut off to the world, but I guess to others viewing me, they'll see that. I just be dealing with my own life in my head. Like I plan the next day as I'm talking to you, or we have a conversation, or whatever. Like I can, like, right now, I know everything I'm doing for my next episode of my podcast, and I'll be preoccupied by my mind. And I know on video I'm seen so like energetic and able to talk, but in person sometimes I'm more timid to myself. I'm always been alone. So I mean, it's give and take. I do get a lot from that video though. I wish if I would have watched that video probably a year ago, I wouldn't be in therapy. But this video,
therapy is always good. My belief is therapy is for everyone, but not every therapist is for everyone. So find therapists that you like, that support you, that help challenge you and help you dig deep, you know. All right, so let me see, any other thoughts on that video? I saw like kind of what they were like. Leah, you had touched on like the avoidance part and like not standing up for yourself, and I feel like they touched on that a little bit in that video, and I was like, okay, Leah touched on that. Yeah. I thought it was a really good video, and we'll link it so you guys could watch it again for yourself if you want.
Yeah. Ooh, another one that I like they brought up was like taking over the conversation. I know a lot of people like that.
Don't give us any names, and probably don't give us an example of that conversation, but can you give me an example of like what it would be like taking over a conversation?
So like if I am discussing a new topic that I just discovered and this person knows about this topic, and instead of allowing me to be like, here's what I found out, what do you think about that, and having like a back and forth conversation, they just go, oh yeah, I know about that.
Gotcha.
And then when I try to be like, well, I had heard this, what do you think? They're like, no, that's wrong. Stop.
Gotcha. So even though I'm a Beyonce fanatic, like if other people want to share interesting thoughts that they think about Beyonce, I need to let them do that. And not be like, you don't know anything, let me tell you everything.
Always gotta bring in your expertise, Lamont. No, I'm just kidding.
No, taking a back seat, like, teachers appreciate, so in grad school, teachers appreciate me because I'm the person that will participate, right? I'll raise my hand and I'll say stuff. And usually, like, if I've done it like 3 times in a row, like the 4th or 5th time, I'll wait to see what other people will do, so I'm not like taking over and just like saving the class. And then maybe on the 6th time I'll jump back in with like, because I just like, oh my god, this is so hard. But like, it's something that I've been working on over the years because it's important to let other people get their part in or share their thoughts so we can learn from each other. All right, Leah.
Yes.
Is it that time?
Yeah, sure. Let's do a break. Let's take a break. Water break.
Water break. And we're back. So, Leah, how would you like to wrap up today?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about our toxic traits.
Okay.
What do we think we struggle with? Like, I mean, we've already brought up a few, so we might be repeating ourselves. But what do we think? Because I think the first part, like we had said, of like getting over this and working through stuff like this is self-awareness and realizing like, yeah, this is something I need to work on. So we'll go first and inspire others.
All right. Do you want me to go first, or are you ready?
You go first.
All right. I'm gonna channel Angela from Why Did I Get Married? 1 and 2. Sometimes people like to tell me that I'm bossy, pushy, that I always think I'm right, that I don't listen, or that I'm stubborn. But no, I think all those things can be true, but usually it comes from a good place, a place of love, of wanting the person to do better. And I think you're gonna like touch on that in a minute. But if it's hurting them, then maybe I need to reconsider on how that's coming across. And then I'm scared that I might actually overtake conversations sometimes without meaning to. So just being a little bit more aware of that. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would I describe me being toxic? I kind of piggyback on what Lamont said. I can sometimes overtake the conversation. I'm when you meet me in person, I love to make people laugh sometimes too, and I kind of go overboard with it. So I'm shucking and driving the whole time. And I it goes from being, all right, Eric, that's funny. Hi, Eric. Okay, Eric. All right, Eric. And okay. But I do try to take over the conversation. Another toxic trait I can have is that I think now that I'm older, I consider my own feelings before somebody else's. But I think that comes from me always, when I was younger, I was considering everybody else's feelings before mine. So I do think now I got to find a happy balance with it now. Because I do consider, okay, this is how it's making me feel, and I'm taking this situation like this, and this is my reaction to it, instead of me thinking, okay, cool, how is you feeling in the process of us doing this right here? Let's have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that that's my really toxic trait.
So you need to work on the conversational piece, like exploring those feelings, but be willing to like get to the other person so you guys can come to a resolution.
Yeah, that. But to me, it's always got to be like if it's not somebody I really care about, I really don't care. If makes sense to you.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, like because I'm engaged with my fiance, so me and her can have a whole like big blow. Unless we had an argument or something like that, which would be when you engage, should be about anything, y'all. An argument come off for anything, but sometimes I can always take how I feel from the conversation. I can always be like, yo, this is what made me feel, and you should understand how I was going through, and this what. And to me, later on, as I'm by myself, I had to think. I think about like, okay, maybe she was feeling like this right here too. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is what caused her to do this right here. I mean, or maybe that's why she said this right because let's say I have this bad habit of not throwing my dirty clothes in the waistband. And I'll throw it right beside the waistband. And she'll be like, I'm tired of picking up these clothes. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. We get washed regardless. And like, and I sit back and I think about it. Maybe we could just went a whole different route for this. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's always the person I care about. So I always try to think about, especially as always after the fact, I always think about what was a better way we could have done this conversation. And I always try to come back after the argument or after a situation where anybody's real close to me and want to have I want to talk about that conversation. I want to talk about what happened and try to like make it right before it goes to a place it shouldn't go. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing.
Alrighty. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Trying to find the balance between thinking of your feelings and thinking of their feelings. That's a good one to keep in mind too. Thank you for that one. Well, for me, I never ask for help ever, even when I need help. So then I get overwhelmed. And I know exactly where that came from and how that developed in my mind. So we're working on that. And my other one is I think too highly of people, like right off the bat. And I keep thinking too highly of people, even when they don't show that they should be like forgiven again and again and again. I give too many chances. There we go. Which actually brings me into what I wanted to talk about next, which is a post by Blessing Manifesting, which I had mentioned them a while ago in another episode. And it is a post/blog that she wrote. And it starts off with an image that says, with self-love comes an awareness of your own toxic traits, even when those traits are rooted in niceness. And she goes on to say that they thought their loyal, patient, giving heart would make them valuable to other people. And it does when there are boundaries in your life. You're surrounded by people who nourish you and like you nourish them in return. Those relationships grow with respect and mutual benefit. But without boundaries, those traits become toxic. Without boundaries, you allow yourself to be used and abused under the guise of being nice and good and kind. And that reinforces whatever pre-existing fears you had about your self-worth. You're not good enough. You're not kind enough. You're not nice enough. So you give even more. And it becomes this never-ending cycle of give, get taken advantage of, and then give to make it better. And the same thing goes with patience and forgiveness. They're wonderful qualities, but when there are no boundaries to go along with them, you put up with things far longer than you should. And it compromises your sense of self and often your mental health as well. And then they go on to say, I've learned to give to a point. I've learned that boundaries are essential and that for every one of your nice qualities, there needs to be a point where you create and enforce a healthy boundary. If you want, you can even, they suggest you can write it out and see where these traits are creating a toxic environment in your life. So I think that's a really great point, that even our good qualities can become toxic if there are no boundaries. So while it's great that I'm into giving second chances to people, I have been run over by people where they keep taking from me, and I keep forgiving them, and I keep taking their shit, and it's just like, okay, this needs to stop. So that is something I'm personally working on, which makes me feel really mean. But
It's not.
like you
It's not.
said, I gotta also think about myself and find that balance of like, how does that make me feel? How does that make them feel? Where are we going? Where are we going?
Right.
Yeah, so when you're able to put in those boundaries and those people show up and respect those boundaries, that shows that they truly care about you. If they're trying to really like run past those boundaries and they're like, I don't agree with your boundary, those are toxic people and you're going to end up in toxic situations. And if you're doing the same thing, it's not good. That's a toxic thing. You need to respect people's boundaries.
Right. Also, I want to say that I do think we take on other people's energy. So but so many people, like you said, like Leah, like you said, you're such a nice person to other people, and you try to help them out as much as you can, and then you kept getting shitted on as time went on, and eventually you take on their persona. You take on being that shitty person eventually, because you get tired of being hurt. You're gonna get tired of being that person that they run to. You're gonna take on. I think that one thing we should do, we should be okay with now, is we need to learn that it's okay to let people go.
Yeah.
It's okay to let things that's not good for us go. And I mean, I had to learn that the hard way too. Like I was just like you too. I like I said, I love a lot, and I'm willing to give you my last just to make you happy. By the end of the day, who's going to give me their last? Who's going to make me happy? Who's going to push me to do better in my life? If I'm giving you all of me, what is left for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I do think that we all, I think, like I said earlier, we gotta find our balance between ourselves and other people, but also take care of ourselves. Like there's a lot of things that comes with this vessel we call life. You know, so this vessel we call a body. I mean, it's a lot that comes with it, and we got to explore each day. You know what I'm saying? Try to live each day one step at a time. I know I ramble a lot. I got lots of push together, but just saying, I just want to say that like we just gotta just take care of ourselves too in the process.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, being toxic, we're all guilty sometimes. Set your boundaries.
I like that.
Self-awareness. Alrighty.
All right. So, Lamont, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Lamont N Leah podcast and talking with us today.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm really happy. Thank y'all.
You're very welcome. Before you go, we want to know, is there any special projects that you are working on right now that you would like to share with us?
Like I said, my podcast is Random Thoughts with Eric G. It's on all podcast platforms. I also have a nonprofit organization that I do outside of my hometown of Henderson, North Carolina. The Green Rose Foundation, which I named after my late mother. Pretty much, I'm a mentor. I help out little kids. I speak to them about life problems, and actually trying to show them a better way outside of the situations they in. So that's pretty much all I have.
Awesome. And of course, all those links will be in our description box, so you can check those out.
Yeah. And if people wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Go to my social media. My Facebook page, Eric Green / the Green Rose Foundation, is the best way to get in contact with me.
And finally, do you have a message that you would like to share from your heart, think that people need to know? Doesn't necessarily need to be about today's topic, but just something that you want to share with others.
That is okay to not be okay. That every day, just take one day a step at a time. Learn to laugh. Learn to just laugh. Learn that situations the problems don't last all the time. Just laugh about it. That's what I do. That's how I live my life.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
And I guess that concludes today's Lamont and Leah podcast.
In
With
conclusion,
Lamont.
Lamont.
Today's life lesson is a good laugh recharges your battery. We all struggle with sad times. We face hard roads. Sometimes we just need a good laugh. Have you ever noticed the power of laughter and how it energizes you? I think Disney's Monster Inc. showed us the power of laughter and how it can really improve our lives. So, when you are going through a hard time, take a moment to think of something fun, funny, and laugh. And that is today's life lesson.